Hello. Morning. How are we? It is me, Sarah Tagg, wishing you a very happy Monday morning. All I can say is thank goodness it's Monday, because after that weekend, I couldn't wait for Monday to arrive. And because, of course, it's Pilates. So thank you for joining me. I have to say, I think this is one of the first Mondays where I've really felt sort of my energy levels having been assaulted by the weather on the weekend. So I thought we'd have a really nice warm up, a really nice start, and just gradually sort of work on the breathing, on that centering, and really come into our bodies and come away from this session feeling energized, as well as feeling sort of stretched, core muscled, and that sort of thing. So if you're feeling well, great. If you're not feeling well, maybe turn me off and do it another time. Just what we'll need for this session, I've got my mat, I've got my towel here, just to support back of my head or my forehead, so we're maintaining that lovely long neck. You might want to have some water with you. It's not an aerobic session. That's not our aim in this session. So you may not find you get very thirsty, but do have a drink when we've finished. It's really important to maintain your hydration levels. I have got a band. I think I might use it, but forgive me if I forget, okay? So if you don't have those things, don't worry. You know, if you haven't got a little towel, you might need something, maybe a cushion or some clothing to go under your head, but don't worry about the band. So we're going to start our warm-up standing. And I like to do a standing warm-up. I think it really helps us sort of transfer the principles of Pilates into the everyday. And also, this is where we're starting anyway. So it's a really nice way just before we get ourselves down. So let's think about this long spine. Before we do anything else, see if you can stand. Maybe take your hands just onto this lower abdominal area, somewhere between the belly button and the pelvis. And just imagine this spine lengthening upwards from this midpoint all the way up the back, through the back of the neck, all the way to the crown of the head. So imagine that lengthening. And if you feel any tension in the neck or the head or the face or the shoulders, see if you can just gently move that head until you find that position where that lengthening's taking place, but there's no tension. So see if you can let that tension fall away. And then we're going to take our awareness into the spine, moving downwards through this tailbone, into that imaginary tail, all the way down to the floor. And see if we can lose the tension in this tailbone. See if you can let it melt away. We're holding lots of tension at the moment in the shoulders, in the lower back, in the tailbone. So we're going to see if we can let that go before we do anything else. And then we'll allow these hands to come away from the side, and we're going to start just with that gentle little spine swing. You might want to take the feet a little bit wider. And we're going to start really nice and easy. Notice that opposite heel comes away from the floor, just to protect that knee joint as we twist. And we're going to allow that head to turn if it feels comfortable. You might want that movement to become a little bit bigger. You might be happy keeping it nice and small. Just listening to that body and its warm-up needs. Good. Okay, now we're going to come back to center. We're going to come back to center. We're just going to bring our feet back to hip width apart. And we're going to imagine just transfer. We're not going to imagine, we're going to do it. We're going to transfer your weight from the ball of the foot through to the heel. Now, this could be really small, can be a little bit bigger, but all the while, just keeping that nice, relaxed but long spine. Relaxed shoulders, relaxed tailbone. And we're going to make those movements smaller and smaller till we arrive at that midpoint where our weight is centered through the feet. Now we're going to think about just making little circles with these hands. So again, nice warm-up move for these shoulders. As these hands come down, you might want to take a little knee bend Just make sure those knees are over that big toe or that second toe, that they're not pushing in or pushing out. So we're keeping those joints in alignment. And that's very much what we're about, keeping everything in its optimum alignment and then challenging those core muscles to keep them there. Good. Okay, getting those shoulders nicely warmed up, just listening to the body again, and then just letting it go. And then again, just letting those heels, balls of the feet, gently rock till we arrive at that midpoint and that weight feels centered. So we have that long spine, shoulders are soft. We're going to think about lifting those shoulders up to the ears. And as we do that, we're going to breathe in. And as we breathe out, we're going to slide those shoulders away from the ears. So we're going to breathe in through the nose if you feel comfortable with that. Don't worry if you don't. And we're going to just gently push that breath out through the mouth. So we're breathing in. It's that soft, almost an H with that breath out. And every time we breathe out, just see if those shoulders will fall a little bit further. Just allow that breath to keep coming out. And this time, as we breathe in, imagine breathing into the side of those lungs, almost expanding your rib cage outwards. And then we're going to imagine breathing into the back of your lungs, almost into your shoulder blades. And we're going to hold it there. Finally, we're going to think about centering. So we talked about where those hands were earlier, between the pelvis and the belly button. So we're going to imagine just tightening this area as if you had a corset, and we're going to tighten it 100%, maximum, notch 10 on that big belt. And then we're going to release. And on the next breath out, we're going to tighten to notch 5, 50% of your maximum, drawing this area away from those hands. And we're going to release. And what's important is that as we draw away, we're not aiding it with this body. So we're holding that lovely relaxed spine. And 30%, notch 3. And then trying to hold it at that notch 3, that 30%. So it's firing up, but not at its maximum. We're going to think about those side bends. We're going to gently lift that rib cage up and over. And we've got those shoulders soft, looking straight ahead. Imagine you've got that spirit level over the hip bones with that red dot in the middle. And as we lift up and over, that red dot's remaining in line with the pubic bone and the belly button. And then we're going to come all the way up. We're going to breathe in, lifting those heels off the floor. And we're going to breathe out. So we've got that belt-like muscle at notch 3. We're breathing in and we're breathing out as we lower those heels. So if we're feeling worried about balance, we're going to make that movement very small. We might even just take the weight into the front of the feet rather than lifting the heels. Then come back to that midpoint of the foot as we breathe out. And this movement's going to be in time with your breathing. And in Pilates, that's what we're going to do. So once you've set up the move, once you know what you're doing, you're going to take your awareness into your body. And we're going to match it to your breathing rhythms rather than mine. And then we're going to just lengthen through that spine, relax that tailbone. We're going to breathe out as we float this arm up to the ceiling. So the movement from the shoulder, breathing out and breathing in. We're not lifting that shoulder, we're sliding that shoulder blade down the back towards the bottom as we float this arm, leading with the thumb. And then we're going to change arms, breathing out and and just allowing yourself to find your own range, exploring that range rather than forcing that range, gradually increasing it with each repetition of the movement. We're looking out onto this imaginary horizon. Vision, horizontal, chin, horizontal. And then we're going to take both arms up. We're going to breathe in. We're going to slide these arms down. I'm slightly out of that camera angle, but breathing in and breathing out. We're going to take one more breath in. Relax that tailbone, draw that tummy button in. We're going to breathe out, and then we're going to see if we can open out this arm. Open out that chest. Good. This time as we open, we're going to breathe in. We're going to breathe out. We're going to breathe in. And we're going to breathe out. From this position, we're going to take our mini squats, keeping those heels firmly on the ground. Making sure those knees bend in line with that second toe. Just getting some movement into these legs, these big muscles that can help warm the body. Now we're going to see if we can tighten this belt, notch 3, and just allow this chest to fall over those thighs. Now with this imaginary tail that's coming from that tailbone, the head is floppy, the arms are floppy. We're going to push that tailbone towards the heels, and we're going to stack this spine. So we're going to start with the lower segments, each one on top of the other till we come back to the top. Let's try that again. So, little squat. Now tighten this belt before you let that chest relax. Just let those arms become floppy. The head is relaxed. You're almost looking between your knees. And then really making sure we tilt that pelvis, push that imaginary tail almost between the heels. And then we're going to stack that spine. And then when we get to the top, we're going to think about doing it the other way. So either with these knees bent because we're worried about the back, okay, or those legs straight, tightening that belt, we're going to lift this rib cage over an imaginary beach ball that we've placed at our feet. We're just going to come back a third of the way. We're going to breathe in, and then we're going to push that tailbone down, heels into the floor. We're going to roll up through the spine. Good. Let's try that again. Now, if we've got any bone density issues, we're going to be very careful with this exercise, particularly with the spine. So we're not going to go any further than that third of the way, and then we're going to come all the way up. We're going to use it as a practice for this neutral spine. Tail hanging down towards the heels, belt tightened, head, shoulders relaxed. If we're confident that the back is okay, we can just gradually take it a little bit further without pushing it, just listening to that body. Good. Coming all the way up. And then we're going to breathe in at the top. We're going to roll these shoulders up, slide these shoulder blades down the back towards the bottom. We're going to take this prayer position, and we're going to take a very gentle twist one way and then back to center. So we're moving with the top half of the trunk. And again, any bone density issues in the spine, we're going to make this a very small movement. And even if there are no issues, there's not actually that far you can go with it, particularly if we imagine those hip bones have got their headlights on them, and the headlights stay shining on that wall in front of you all the time. Good. So we're breathing out as we move away from center, breathing in as we return, shoulders relaxed, looking out onto that horizon, letting those arms go. So we just let those arms swing a little bit, shake those feet out, We're going to think about bringing ourselves onto our mats now, guys. So we're going to come into a kneeling position. We can either use that roll down, and I'm just going to demonstrate it off the mat because you won't see me if I'm on the mat. Once we're here, we can bend those knees and walk ourselves out into that kneeling position. Remember that nice long spine. If we're not comfortable rolling down, then we can get down into that kneeling position however we feel comfortable. Now, I am going to move the camera in that very sophisticated way that I do. And we shall be down onto our mats. So I'm going to bring myself onto the mat. And with this kneeling position, we're going to take those hands, we want those fingers facing forwards, knees directly underneath the hips, hands shoulder width apart. Now, have a little moment to think about how we hold ourselves. We tend to have those elbows bent, and we tend to do something with the neck. So either like this or like this. So see if we can push into the palms of those hands, lengthen through those arms, then draw those shoulders down away from the ears. Instantly, we have to get these core muscles working. So imagine I've lit that campfire underneath your belly button. It's very hot. So we're drawing your tummy button away from that burning heat. And then we're going to think about this head and neck position. We're going to take our vision to that invisible line at the top of the fingertips. And we're going to see if we can hold this 4-point kneeling position. Good. So we're using our core strength. We're using our upper body strength. Now, let's see if we can come into our cat stretch. So tilting that pelvis, pushing that tail between the knees, coming back to that neutral spine position. As we tilt the pelvis, we're drawing that spine up towards the ceiling, and then coming back to that neutral spine. So there's flow in this movement. And finally, we just gently drop that chin towards the chest. We're looking towards those knees. So it's those 3 movements that combine to make this cat stretch. Breathing out as we draw up. Breathing in as we come back to that neutral spine position. Breathing out. Breathing in. So we're keeping that belt active. Draw that tummy button in. Keep those shoulders drawn away from the ears. Keep those arms nice and straight. Now from here, we're going to bring ourselves into that child's pose position. Slide those elbows behind the knees. Breathe out. Breathe out. So from here, we're going to see if we can walk ourselves out onto our fronts. So, good. So we've been using those arm muscles statically. So you might feel the arms and the shoulders. Now from this position, we're going to find a comfortable position where you feel that your head is supported. We've got that long neck. Now, once we're lying on the mat, it's really tempting to sort of let this tummy just rest into the mat, and we almost overarch the back. So we're going to go back to that neutral spine. We're going to imagine that long lengthened spine. Tail is pushing straight towards your heels. And then once you're there, we're going to activate that belt-like muscle. We're going to activate it. Now relax the shoulders. Let those arms relax either side of you. We're going to start with swimming legs. So we're going to squeeze with this left buttock, and we're going to lengthen this leg away from the floor, and then slowly bring it down. We're breathing out, and we're breathing in. Breathing out. So it's quite tempting to sort of lift like this, lift like this. What we're going to do is we're going to do 8 to 10 on this leg. Think about moving from the hip, squeezing from that bottom. Okay, lengthening. So I always think about lengthening to almost touch something behind me rather than lifting. And we've probably got about 4 left. Breathing out and in.
So we've got that hip bone still in contact with the mat. Shoulders relaxed. Head looking down, neck feels soft. And then when we've done our 8 to 10, we're going to do the same on the other side. So imagine that I've got a glass of water balancing at the base of your back. So we don't want those hips rolling. Good. We're lengthening, we're reaching behind us. Breathing out. Drawing that tummy button away from the mat. Breathing out and in. Squeezing. When we've done our 10 on each side, we're going to think about pushing ourselves back up to that cat stretch. And we're going to just take one of these just to stretch out that back. Now, from that 4-point kneeling position, we're going to do a little bit of core control. Oh, there goes the core. Little bit of core control. Shh. I'll just wait till he's soon downstairs. Okay, so we're just going to slide this hand forwards and we're going to bring it back down. So we're having to balance, we're having to use those core muscles. So from that 4-point kneeling position, we're going to a 3-point kneeling position. Now try not to overreach. Keep drawing that shoulder blade down the back towards the bottom. Good. We're breathing out and we're breathing in. We're breathing out, just not overreaching. And again, from that shoulder, we're going to do one more. Good. And then we're going to come back into this child's pose. So we're going to just tilt that pelvis, sit back on those heels. This time we're going to slide those hands in front of us. Breathing out. Breathing out. Feeling that lovely stretch. Okay. So we're going to bring those knees together and we're going to bring ourselves onto our backs. We're going to simply roll down. Now you might need to hold onto the back of the thighs to control this movement. Once we're there, slide yourself into position on that mat. Find that nice towel to support the back of your head. And then we're going to really let these arms relax. So we're going to focus on the shoulders relaxing and the arms relaxing. Obviously, we want these muscles here to be working because that's really important in controlling this core. But we're going to be making sure we're not tensing with the arms. So imagine those arms melting into the mat. Good. Let those shoulder blades do the same. We're going to look straight up to the ceiling and we're going to practice that little pelvic tilt. But first, we need to make sure that we've got those feet in that 12 o'clock position, hip width apart. Okay, the feet are obviously mostly really important in lots of the things we do, particularly when we're using the leg muscles. Now, we're going to practice that little pelvic tilt. So we're rocking that pelvis so that the lower back comes closer to the mat as we tilt that pelvis, push that tail towards our knees. And then as we let that tail sink back down to the mat, you'll notice that lower back gently arches. So we want somewhere in between the two. So that will be our neutral spine. So you might be able to get some fingers close to the small of the back, but no more than that. If in doubt, get that back a little bit closer to the mat. Now we're going to come into our bridge position now. So we're going to breathe in to prepare. We're going to tilt that pelvis. We're going to press the heels down into the mat, squeeze the bottom, peel the spine away from the mat. So we're going to pause at the top. Breathe in. And as we breathe out, we're going to start at the top of that spine. We're going to press one little segment at a time down into the mat till we come back to that neutral spine position. Again, we're going to breathe in. Again, we're going to tighten that belt. And again, we're going to tilt as we breathe out, peel that spine away from the mat. So we're squeezing this bottom. You might find it takes you a couple of goes to actually get to your full range. That's fine, that's normal. That's warming up into the move. Once we found our full range, we're going to aim for somewhere between 6 or 8 of these. And on the number 6 or the number 8, we're going to hold this position statically. Now take your awareness into your shoulders and into those arms. Okay. Make sure you're looking straight up towards the ceiling instead of looking at me. So remember, this is all in time with your breathing. Good. Notice if we're getting a dull ache in that lower back. If so, we could be pushing up too high into those ribs. So we want those knees pointing up towards the ceiling. Okay. Toes relaxed. Bottom hamstrings, that's the back of the leg, active, but not pushing too high into those ribs. I'll show you what it looks like if we're pushing into the ribs. Okay, and if you're not sure, you could get someone to have a little look at you or record yourself and I could look. That's what it looks like. You can see we're sort of almost lifting those ribs, arching that back. So we want to just allow that connection between the ribs and the pelvis to appear. Use this. Come all the way back down. Now we're going to bring one knee and then the other knee into that chest. We're just going to hug them in. So really feel that nice stretch in the lower back. And then we're going to come into our hip rolls. So 1 foot at a time down. So we're not putting too much pressure on that back as we lower or raise those legs. Let's walk those feet together. Walk those knees together. And again, just drawing those hip bones together. It's that light contraction, that 30% contraction. And we're first of all just going to let those knees fall to 1 o'clock, from 12, and then to 11 o'clock. And you might gradually find you can increase that range, but listen to that body. So I'm going to let my head just gently form a connection to those legs. It's as if the knees and the head are in some sort of symbiotic relationship. And as the knees and the head come to the middle, then they're gently moving in the opposite direction. So let's take our awareness into those shoulders again, those arms. Just let those arms melt down into the floor. Let them relax. Let those shoulder blades just sink downwards. Let those shoulders relax. So we've got this inner core of steel. This belt-like muscle is working really hard, but it's surrounded by silk. Now we're going to come back to center. We're going to open out these feet back to hip width apart. We're going to find that neutral spine. Then we're going to tighten this belt and we're going to bring one leg into tabletop. So tabletop being that knee is in line with that hip and it's a tabletop. We could balance a glass of water on that shin. That's not a tabletop. That's not one. Okay. Now some of you will be comfortable bringing that second leg up so that we're operating from a 2-leg tabletop. If you feel that back arching at this point, bring one leg down. And we're going to start with those toe dips where we're holding that 90-degree angle at the knee and we're just pushing that thigh away from center, dipping that toe into that exceptionally cold water lake that I've just conveniently put next to your feet. We're going to do somewhere between 8 and 10 on one leg. Then we're going to change legs, do 8 and 10 on the other. So as this knee moves away from center, you'll notice it wants to make that back arch. So make sure we draw these core muscles in. Don't let that back move away from the mat. We're using that breathing to control. Breathing out, breathing in. Now, take your awareness into those shoulders, into those arms. Are those shoulders relaxed, or are they as tense as they can be? See if you can allow this softness just to fall through the shoulders, the arms, and the shoulder blades. And when we've done 10 or 8 or 6, whatever your number is that feels challenging but not impossible, we're going to change legs. Good. So breathing out on that hardest part of the move. If it's 2-leg tabletop, it looks like this. So the supporting leg remains static. Now soften those shoulders. Good. Soften those shoulders. Breathing out, breathing in. We're looking up towards the ceiling. And unless, of course, you think, oh, I'm not quite sure if I'm doing it right, you just want to glance over, check. It can either be with 2 legs in tabletop, or it can be with 1 leg. And when we've done our 8 or 10, we're then going to take this foot down. We're going to slide 1 foot out and the other. We're going to take a nice full body stretch. Now draw that tummy button in. Just stretch out, fingers through to those toes. And then we're going to imagine that left foot, that right hand being lengthened. And then we're going to release. We're going to imagine someone pulling the left hand and the right foot. And then we're going to release. And we're going to bring those arms down. Slide 1 foot and the other foot back up. We're going to come back to that bridge. Now, we're going to see if we can take you into bridge position and hold it statically. So with that neutral spine, we're then going to tilt that pelvis. Make sure you got that belt tightened. Peel that spine away from the mat. Now we've got those knees pointing up towards the ceiling. Squeezing. Now if you need to keep those arms down, you can keep them down. If you feel confident, floating them up to the ceiling, keep squeezing that bottom, holding that strong bridge. And we're going to think about taking that scissors switch. So we're going to breathe out. We're going to breathe in. Good. We're going to breathe out. We're going to breathe in. Relax those toes, my friend. Breathe out. Squeeze those bottom muscles. Breathe out and in. Now, if you get cramp in the back of the leg, come out of it. Okay, and sometimes we might need to bring the heels a little bit closer if we find the hamstrings cramp up a lot. We're going to take 3 more. We're breathing out, breathing in, keeping the shoulders as relaxed as you can, leading with that thumb. And 1 more. And then we're going to come all the way down. 1 little segment of that spine at a time. And then again, let's just see if we can hug these knees into the chest. Now we're going to hug that right knee into the chest. Take that left foot down. Slide that foot away from center. We're going to hug this right knee towards the right shoulder. And then we're going to gently draw that knee across the body towards the left shoulder. So you'll feel a sort of stretching here. Okay, good. And then we're going to bring this knee back. Slide that left foot in. Lift that left knee to the chest. And nice and slow and controlled, just push that right foot away from you. So we're starting with that same knee. Left knee towards that left shoulder. And then just bringing it across the chest, trying to keep both hip bones on the floor, keeping both shoulder blades melting down into that mat. Good. Okay, so we're going to slide this foot back up, bring this one back down. Fantastic, guys. Let's see if we can walk these feet together now. Allow these knees to gently fall. And we're going to come over, hopefully not rolling off your mat like I just did, onto your side. Now, what we're going to do today is we are going to straighten out these legs. So if you can see quite a bit of that lower thigh, you'll probably roll backwards. We want this hip stacked on top of the other. Okay. Now I'm going to turn myself just so you can see if those heels are behind your tailbone, it's going to put a lot of pressure on your lower back. So you want those heels in line with that tailbone or a little bit in front if you need to. Okay, so hips stacked. Now, I'm going to use my arm for support for my head, but if you want to put that towel there to add a little bit of extra support, that's fine. Okay, I'm going to try that. Good. So once those hips are stacked, we're going to think about whether we need some support. So you may find that you can comfortably, I'm just going to move this way a little bit. You may find you can comfortably take that hand here without having to use this arm for balance. Now, the further this finger is away, further this hand is away, the more balance it's going to give you to stop you falling forwards. Okay, but be careful of this shoulder. See if you can draw that shoulder blade down that back towards the bottom. We're going to tighten this belt. So imagine that I'm posting a letter between your waist and the floor. I'm just going to check that those hips are stacked again. And then we're going to take some leg lifts. So we're going to slide this leg up, slide it back down. Good. So we're going to aim for about 8 of these. Now, if you feel comfortable, you can float this lower leg off the floor. And looking straight ahead, we're breathing out, breathing in. All the while, we're tightening this belt. This trunk is stable, and we're working these muscles in the side of the bottom, the little glutes, but we're also really challenging those core muscles. So you might find that we can come here. You might need that support. So we're breathing out and not letting that leg fall down, flowing up, flowing down. Now, when we've got to our number 8, we're going to gently bring it back to that position. Now, let's see if we can lower this foot down. Now, this is something a little bit different, so I'm going to show you from a different angle as well. From the hip, we're just going to bring that leg forwards and back. Okay, so I'm going to show you from this position. Okay, we're basically, I can't see you now, so I'm hoping I've got it. We're basically from hip level, taking that leg gently forwards and back. So we're calling this the kick. Now what you'll find is it's really challenging these core muscles, because as the leg comes forward, we want to do that. So we're going to aim for about 5 of these. Okay, so if you're already doing them, great. If not, we want that leg back hip level, floated away from the ceiling. The lower leg is here. Now, if you need more support, you can bend that lower leg, and it's just that horizontal movement. So like a door opening. Okay, so the leg is the door and the hip is the hinge. Good. Once you've got the feeling for that, we can straighten out that leg. You may not be able to go so far, and you'll notice this shoulder wants to do that. So see if we can use those core muscles rather than the arms and the shoulders. Good. And when we've done that, we're going to gently lower it, bend those knees. You can give that hip a little rub if you like, even let that knee fall over just to stretch it out a little bit. Good. So we're really challenging your core muscles now, as well as these hip muscles. So let's see if we can now slide this hand underneath you. I always add this exercise into our sideways exercises because I love it and I think it's so relevant to us all. So our open door. Let's see if we can open that door. This time it's in the arms and the shoulders. And we're going to shut. So remember what we said about those hips being stacked. We tend to want to do that to get more range. Let's keep that range smaller if we have to, and get that really nice rotation. Stretch across the chest, stretch across the shoulders. So make sure this arm doesn't go higher than the shoulders, about chest level, somewhere between the chest and the shoulders. If you find that you're rolling backwards and you're finding it difficult to stop, just push this hip gently forwards as you breathe out, as you open. Don't worry if you can't follow that hand with the head all the way. We're doing about 5, 6, 7, or 8 of these. then we're going to bring that hand over. We're going to slide these feet out and allow ourselves to roll onto our fronts again. Okay, so we're on our front. Remember that lovely position that we came into. So think about that abdominal bracing, but lengthening through that spine first, relaxing the shoulders, long spine, neutral spine. You can do the tilt if you're not sure, and then relax, draw that belly button away from the mat. So we're going to start off with our swan dive squeezes. We're just squeezing these elbows up, forearms away from the mat, and slowly back down. So we want that bottom relaxed. We want these core muscles active. So imagine you're lying on a block of ice this time, and we're working these muscles here, okay, by squeezing these forearms away from the mat. So try and make sure the arms aren't too narrow. Make sure there's some space between your elbows and your armpits. So we're almost in a W position. You might even prefer slightly more of a sort of box shape, okay? And as you lift and squeeze, we're breathing out, okay? Breathing in. And then we're going to release. We're going to hold it there. And we're going to think about now just sliding these elbows down. Sliding those elbows down towards that bottom. And then coming back to that start position. Then we're going to slide one hand just along that floor, only as far as your shoulder feels comfortable, sliding it back. Good. So we're going to try this with those squeezed forearms away from the floor. Now, one arm at a time, tighten that belt. Imagine I've put a tennis ball underneath your fingertips and you're rolling it far backwards as you can in a straight line, pushing it forwards. So we're rolling it with control. We're going to do 3 on the left, come back to that static position, 3 on the right. Now don't forget that belt-like muscle. Keep drawing that tummy button in. Try not to let that back arch and that tummy to dome. Now we're going to take 2 arms together. We're going to breathe in. We're going to breathe out. So 2 arms working at the same time. We're pushing those tennis balls forwards, rolling them backwards. Good. Squeezing those elbows down towards the outside of those ankles. Obviously, they're not going to get there, but it's that squeeze down as well as that roll forwards. And when we've done as many as we feel comfortable, we're going to relax, push ourselves up. When I say as many as you feel comfortable, somewhere between 6 and 10, my friends. But you can do less, you can do more. And I feel that really good stretch in those shoulders. Good work. Okay, so we're going to bring ourselves back onto our fronts. And this time we're going to see if we can work the lower back. So again, with that comfortable W position, this time we can tighten those bottom muscles. We're going to draw that tummy button away from the mat. And we're going to look down. And as we look down, we're going to lift that chest, but keep that eye looking down, or those eyes. So keep your view looking down towards the mat. So maintaining that long line. Good. So keeping those feet on the floor, pushing those toes towards the corner of the room. Good. Or the edge of the room, or the skirting board behind you. If your toes start to cramp up, you can always tuck them under. Okay. And we're drawing those shoulder blades down the back towards the bottom as we lift. So you can use these hands to help you if you need to. If you want to make it more challenging, we can just use those hands, palms facing the thighs, Keeping those shoulder blades sliding down the back, reaching for the outside of those feet, breathing out, breathing in, and then relax. Good. Okay, so we're going to push ourselves up to our cat stretch. We're going to stretch out that back by taking one cat stretch. Come back to that 4-point kneading position. Bring those knees together. And we're going to bring ourselves just onto this hip. Now we're going to slide these feet out in front of us. Take a nice straddle position, but think about that long spine. So when we're talking long spine, it's sort of not that or that. It's here. So you might need to sit on something that just lifts your sitting bones a little bit. That will help counteract these tight hip flexors if they're preventing you from sitting tall. Now, from here, we're going to see if we can slide those shoulders down away from the ears. It was like, what are these things called? And then we're going to take that prayer position again. And again, if we have any bone density issues, we're going to keep this very small. So we don't want these fingertips moving to the outside of that knee. Good. We're keeping them very much inside. So we're keeping that chin drawn to the back of the neck. Good. And then we're going to take one more, breathing out. We're going to breathe in. We're going to come back. Now, let's see if we can just lengthen out those legs. Keep the bent knee if you need to. We're going to imagine that we got this beach ball in our arms. We're going to draw up. We're going to zip up. We're going to lift this chest over that imaginary beach ball. Good. Now, I'm going to see if I can do that a little bit of challenge for my flexibility of my inner thighs. And then push that tailbone down, stack each little segment of the spine. So we're lifting that rib cage up, breathing out over the beach ball and rolling all the way back up. Okay, I'm going to show you from this angle just in case. Relaxing those shoulders. Good. We're going to take one more if we can, guys. And then we're going to slide those arms down. We're just going to bring those legs in and we're going to then take them. No, we're going to take the feet that way. Okay, so we're going to do this sideways movement with the opposite side. So remember that those hips are stacked. Good. That's great, guys. Nice long spine. So you can use that towel on that arm if you need to. And the first thing we're going to do is just challenge our balance a little bit. So while we're in this perpendicular hip stack position, okay, we're just going to make sure that those heels aren't behind us. Okay, relax the shoulders. Now, let's practice that leg lift. And if we feel confident, we can float that lower leg. Good. Remember, you can take that hand and gently place it down the side of your trunk if you feel comfortable. We've got that chin drawn to the back of the neck, long spine. Imagine I'm trying to post a little letter between your waist and the floor. Keep drawing that waist away from the floor. There's that flow up, that flow down. When we've done somewhere between 6 and 10, we're going to hold it there. About 8 is my perfect. And we're going to think about that kick. So I know that I'm already using that. So I'm going to lower that lower leg. I'm actually going to give myself a little bit more support so I can roll that shoulder away from the ear. And then I'm going to practice that straight leg. So the hips stay stacked. We're breathing out. Really draw that tummy button in. Breathing in. Good. I might challenge myself a little bit more now. I've got the hang of it. I'm going to take one more. And slowly bring it down. Good. So let's bend those knees. Just let that top knee gently fall over and give that a little rub. Just stretch it out a little bit. Oof. Okay, and then our open door. So remember, we're keeping the hips stacked again. I'm going to bring that towel underneath my head, palms facing each other. And then I'm going to breathe out. I'm going to breathe in. So this is a really useful movement to use for some mindfulness. Really bringing yourself into the present. Noticing that breathing. Softening those shoulders. Breathing out into those fingertips. Breathing in. So we're drawing that belly button inwards. Stacking those hips, maybe gently pushing that top hip bone forwards as we open. And then we're gently going to bring ourselves, by opening up those knees a little bit, onto your backs. Onto your backs. Where are we? We're good. Okay, so we'll just take a little pelvic tilt again, just to loosen up that lower back. Good. Okay. Now, I'm going to place that towel so it's in a comfortable position for my head and neck. And we're going to think about just drawing those hip bones together, tightening that corset somewhere around 3 or 4. Okay, we're not at that maximum 10. We're going to come into tabletop. So I'm going to see if I can breathe in to bring my first knee up. Good. And then I'm going to breathe out if I'm using a double leg tabletop to bring the second one. So we're going to have a little play with that knee position. Remember, we've been doing that. So if this is too challenging, we can always bring those knees a little bit closer. Okay. And if that's not challenging enough, you can gradually take them just a tiny bit. So you're really having to tighten this to hold this basic position. Now relax those arms. Keep that chin drawn from the back of the neck. And we're going to just lengthen that leg. Lengthening the right leg. We're going to do 8 of these. Now as you lengthen, try and relax those shoulders. Breathe out, breathe in. Breathe out and in. Good. We're breathing out and in. Slowly bring that knee back in. Really think about it. Really relax those shoulders. And then we're changing legs. So if we're in one leg tabletop, okay, bring that first leg down. Gradually bring that second one up. Now, this foot being higher is slightly less challenging than it being lower. So your back will want to arch more the lower this foot goes. So make sure you're controlling that lower back. It's no point doing the most hardest part of the move if that back is arching. Let's do something that challenges us, but that we can control, and then build that strength. Now, we're going to bring one knee, then the other knee into this chest, and we're going to roll like a ball. I'm going to do my very modified version where my head is relaxed, my shoulders are relaxed on the mat, and we're just gently massaging this lower back into the mat. Good. Now, one more little challenge for these core muscles. We're going to see if we can come into those knee circles. So we're going to bring one knee into tabletop. Now I want you to imagine I put a pencil in this knee, and we're going to draw 5 circles clockwise, then anti-clockwise. But We need to be aware of what's happening to the supporting knee. Quite often it's trying to circle at the same time or wobbling. I'm going to balance a glass of water on that knee, okay? Now you can take the leg straight if you prefer. It's a little bit more challenging. Again, glass of water on that knee. And we need to maintain that neutral spine. So these are our knee circles. We're breathing out as we move away from center, breathing in to return. Good. So the perfect circles with this pencil. So we've got hip mobility. But what's happening with those shoulders? Mine are really tense, so I'm going to have to relax those shoulders, bring that tension to these core muscles here. Good. And then when you've done 5 one way, we're going to take it the other. It's up to you which you start with, clockwise or anti-clockwise. Breathing out. The hardest bit usually is moving away from center. So that's when we tend to breathe out, but breathe whatever works for you. Good. And then we're going to bring that one down with control. And again, maintaining that neutral spine, bring that other one up. So we've got that glass of water on the supporting knee. You might find one easier than other. There's always one that's a little bit easier, one side. Don't worry about it, that's normal. Because we're all right or left-handed, so we favor one side. Good. Don't forget to breathe. Use this breathing to help you. Shoulders soft. Really tighten that belt. And then again, bring that knee in. Bring this knee in. So we're just going to stretch out that lower back a little bit. Okay. So we're going to see if we can bring ourselves to a seated position again. You might feel comfortable placing these hands here and gently supporting yourself up. You may need to come onto your side, push yourself up and into this position, whatever suits you. Because we're going to see if we can practice those little pelvic tilts in a seated position. So I'm always aware when these dark trousers don't really help with the camera. I'm not willing to wear white ones though. Okay, so if you had that imaginary tail here, we're going to tilt the pelvis so we can just tuck that tail under, if that makes sense. We're just tucking that tail under. So with those shoulders relaxed, we're going to tuck that tail under and we're creating this C curve. So if you get a sore back when you're sitting, say at computers or doing things, you know, you can do this little pelvic tilt in any position. You can do it in a chair, you can do it standing, okay? It doesn't mean you have to get down onto your back or on your front or in a kneeling position. Now from this, only if you feel comfortable are we going to take that roll down. So if we have any issues with the spine, we are going to do just a mini roll down. Okay, and it's going to look like this, and then we're going to take that spine stretch. So shoulders relaxed, holding onto the back of those thighs, tighten that belt, and then breathing out, we're going to just see if we can press the top of that pelvis, maybe the lower segment of the spine into the mat, really tighten. Breathe in as we roll back up, and then we're going to breathe out, just lifting that chest over those thighs, a little bit like that stretch we did earlier. You might want to take those feet a little bit further out. Doesn't matter if the feet are on the floor or lifted. Okay, so we're going to take that pelvic tilt only as far as you feel comfortable. Breathe out. And again. Actually, don't worry about that breathing. Make sure it works for you. So pelvic tilt, only as far. Now, if you've got no issues and you're comfortable challenging, you might be able to go a little bit further. Breathe in, tighten that belt. Breathe out. You may even, as long as you've got no issues, want to take this with those feet further out, straight legs. Good. Excellent, guys. peel that spine away from the mat. And then we're going to come all the way up. Okay, I'm going to turn around. I'm going to face this camera and we're going to come back to that straddle position. Either knees bent or straight out here. Now, some of us, again, we've talked about bone density, so I'm going to give you the alternative first. We're basically just going to open out this chest and bring these arms in. So we're sitting tall, shoulders drawn away from the mat. If you've got a resistance band, we're going to take those hands a little bit wider than shoulder width apart, and we're just going to squeeze those shoulder blades together. And this is to avoid too much twisting. Okay, so we're going to work those back muscles, but also these core muscles here. We've got a nice bit of flexibility in this part of the body as well. Now, if we're comfortable with the twisting movements, we're going to open out this chest, okay, just like they're doing with the band. Turn those palms to face the floor, just relax those shoulders. We're going to squeeze through that pelvic floor. We're going to lift this chest, breathe out, breathe in, relax the shoulders. We're going to breathe out, breathe in, good, relax those shoulders. Squeeze that pelvic floor, tighten that belt. Keep that little orange between the chin and the chest. This is our saw. Good. We're going to take one more either side. Good. Relax those shoulders between each move. Lengthen through that spine and then just bring those arms down. Bring those legs together. Just give us a little stretch. Lovely. Okay, my friends. We're almost at an end. So we're going to bring these feet this way. We're going to let them come to the side, and then we're going to see if we can come up into that kneeling position. Okay, so from here, we want to stretch out these hip flexors. We particularly felt them in that seated position. So we're going to slide one foot in front of us, and we're going to let this chest just relax on this front leg. I'm going to move my angle a little bit so you can see where we're going with this. So we're nice and relaxed here, okay? Now, don't worry about this back foot. It can be toes relaxed or it can be toes tucked under. It's up to you. Now, what we're going to do is relax the shoulders, tighten the belt, and only if you feel comfortable, we're going to see if we can lift this chest. Good. So you'll feel this stretch here. No sign of my head, which is marvelous. Good. Now, what we're going to do is take that beach ball that we were using earlier, and we're just going to turn towards that front knee and place it down here. And then we're going to come back to center, gently let that chest rest over that thigh, slide that knee backwards. Okay, so I'm going to come back into that position. We're going to see if we can do the same on the other leg. So this is quite often the most challenging bit, the sliding of the foot forward, particularly if you do this session barefoot. I can never quite get on with socks when I'm doing it. I like bare feet. So we're going to just allow yourself to find that way. Get used to this. Now tighten that belt. Try not to stick that bottom out as you lift. So gently keep that tail pushing down towards the mat. Lovely. And then we're going to take that big beach ball only if you feel comfortable, and we're going to place it, just put it down on this side, come back and bring it in. So let's just slide this foot backwards, tuck that tail under, come into that child's pose position. And I'm going to let you just breathe out. Now let's see if we can, in your own time, bring these hands back. So we're going to come back to our standing position using that roll up that we practiced, or just by coming up however you feel comfortable. So if we're using our roll up, we're going to see if we can tuck these toes under. We're going to walk these hands towards the knees, come back onto these feet. So those feet are hip width apart. Okay. Now we're going to just let that head relax. Straighten out through those legs as much as you feel comfortable. Engage those core muscles. So brace those abdominals, push that tailbone towards the heels, and we're going to stack the spine one little segment at a time. Good. I must work out how we can do that so you can actually see the full force. So when we're in that long position, we're going to relax those shoulders. We're going to stand nice and tall on or off that mat, and we're going to breathe out. We're going to think about breathing in and breathing out. So we're going to soften those shoulders, soften that neck, fill those lungs, empty those lungs. I'm going to take one more. Then we're going to reach up with this arm. We're going to drop that arm just over those shoulders, down between the shoulder blades. I'm going to support this stretch of the shoulders and the backs of the arms. Nice long spine. And then we're going to reach up. So I'm going to take these arms so you can see where we're going. We're going to reach, lifting that rib cage. Good. So we can do this just with normal feet. It's just that I was worried I was going off picture. Walking that hand over that shoulder. So you can reach up and over the shoulder, or you can walk it over. Don't forget to breathe out. We're going to reach up, relax this arm. And so, breathing in, breathing out. We're going to make that breath out slower than the breath in. Imagine that air coming through the nose, the mouth, down into those lungs. Just imagine you pushing it out. And then coming back, wiggling those toes, wiggling those hands a little bit, rolling those shoulders. Well done, my friends. Really nice Pilates. Oh, I've gone over again, haven't I? I thought I'm going to keep to the hour today. Lovely work. Hope you enjoyed it. Any questions, do come back to me. And yeah, really nice. We did lots of everything. There's a bit of upper body strength today as well in that static position. So if anything gives you any trouble, do come back to me. And otherwise, happy Monday. Enjoy the rest of this day. At least there's a bit of sunshine today, isn't there? So enjoy and bye-bye. I've got to hit the right button.